Yeah, it's iced tea limited. I can't drink those like the carbonated ones, but
It's like that.
I'm trying to cut back on my coffee intake because since I've had COVID, coffee tastes funny. So
I just think coffee's been tasting funny in general lately.
Just filtered water.
Filtered water, maybe that's the.
McDonald's,
my tap has a filter on it.
McDonald's has awards 4 coffee contracts a year. Laundries in the country. Everything is the same. Except for
All right. It shall come to order. Today is August 18th, 2022. This is the Town of Manlius Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the month of August. If everyone could please rise, we will give you allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just a reminder, everyone in the audience, if you could please silence your cell phones. Don't know if our other applicants are here, so we will see when we get there. Do we have anybody else other than Carrie online right now? We're waiting to get in.
You have one attending.
Okay. Okay. All right, did members of the board, did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from last month?
Yes.
Any questions, comments, concerns? No comments?
Make a motion to accept as written.
All right, can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. All right, so first item on, well, second item on the agenda tonight is a follow-up to the appeal to the Manlius Zoning Board of Appeals to appeal the issuance of a building permit by the code enforcement officer to Abundant Solar Power LLC. All right, so as we talked about last meeting, the board has had a chance now to go through the documents. Everybody was able to go through it, and I want to read this statement, and then I want to open it for discussion if you guys have any additional comments. So this is a, let's see. Should I read it right? All right.
Proposed motion.
Proposed motion.
Motion?
This,
Authored by whom?
this was
This, do you have the motion?
just sent.
Okay.
It's on my phone.
Yep.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I read it.
So the matter is before the zoning board of appeals for a determination as to whether the town codes officer properly issued a building permit to Abundant Solar on April 14th, 2022. And coming to its decision herein, the board is mindful of the legal principle that the issuance of a building permit is a ministerial act not subject to the discretion of the code enforcement officer. This board has reviewed the documents submitted to the code enforcement officer in support of the application for building permit, which are part of the public file, as well as the affirmation of the code enforcement officer, Tom Poitras. All documents required by Town Code Chapter 59 were submitted by the applicant and subsequently appropriately reviewed by the code enforcement officer. Accordingly, this board finds that the town code enforcement officer properly issued the building permit to Abundant Solar on April 14th, 2022. The application has brought up many ancillary issues, most of which relate to the town board's actions in passing legislation relating to the approval of solar arrays on landfills, as well as to its authority to do so. However, the review of the ZAB is limited to the ministerial issuance of the building permit only. All other issues raised by the applicant are beyond the purview of this board and are not entertained herein. Those are matters that are properly left to the appropriate venue. I would like to open the floor to members of the board to ask any questions or make any comments.
I'm sorry, I got a letter. Is that the same thing? It's not. the
That's
same thing.
part of what was sent to us. No, it's this that you've got in your left hand.
I don't believe I got that.
You have it right there.
That's it,
I didn't get this.
You have it underneath,
unless it came out with this packet.
and you have This was emailed to you.
Okay, if it was emailed, I didn't get it, or I didn't take it off the email.
Did you get one? to share?
I read it this
Yes,
afternoon
okay.
at 5 o'clock.
Carrie, you got it, right? We talked about it. You have it?
Yeah, I got it. It came with that other thing that KP has. It was an additional, it was a PDF file.
Okay, well,
I
maybe
didn't
I,
get it till 5 o'clock.
yeah,
Is that, when did she send it?
I mean, some.
Well, this afternoon,
This afternoon.
yeah, I just downloaded the letter, may have missed the second part.
Okay.
Did not realize it.
What's the copy?
Yeah.
It's all right.
Are you guys right there?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any comments?
Is this going to be in place of Tom? What's this going to do?
So what this is saying is that the code enforcement officer had all of the required documentation
Yeah, no,
in the,
what is the motion going to do? Eliminate,
No, it
The
just says
vote?
that, no. The motion is going to be the vote. What Tim is trying to do is bring it up for discussion. This is a proposed motion that's saying that that the building permit was properly issued. That's the proposed motion. Now he wants discussion on the motion.
Did we
Well-
not get a chance to participate? I thought the hearing
Yeah.
was continued.
I'm gonna have the board speak and then I'm gonna open it up for the public to comment as well.
Okay.
Yep, I just wanted to go in that order, if that's okay.
I guess if we voted positive on that motion, then the rest of it would be mute as far as any other discussion, right?
The motion is, did the code enforcement officer properly issue the permit?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else, and what the motion goes on to say is that any other issues that have been brought up are not relevant. They're in for a different forum. That's what the motion says.
Oh, well. Okay, that's what it says, and
In reviewing the documents, did you guys have any questions?
I've got a question or two. Yeah.
That's what I'm asking for. Because I want to open it so we can all discuss, because
Some of the
we,
gist that I got from that letter also was that he acted as an agent for the board, doing a process which they.
For the town, for the
Yeah,
town.
For the town, yes. And that's what his function was, and he completed it in a satisfactory manner.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the question.
Carrie? Do you have any questions? You're on mute. I can have KP answer and then come back to you.
Yeah, have KP answer and I'll come back. to you.
Okay. KP, do you have questions? Do you wanna, you said you did?
Not on the motion, no, I understand the motion.
So again, this is the first time that we're all together since reviewing the documents we've had.
Okay.
So I
I've got
want to
a
make sure
question or
we're,
two for Tom. if
yeah, I want to
can
make
do
sure
that.
we're all on the same page here, so.
Yeah, like, can I ask Tom some
Yes.
questions?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
What are your questions?
Question, well, that's question one anyway. Could you give us a little background of, on yourself and, being you're certified code enforcement officer, right?
Correct.
Right, so give us a little
Right.
background of what you got, where you've been, and what you've done.
I don't want to say, how is that relevant to the issuance of a building permit?
Okay, all right. Well, let's cut right to the chase, in my opinion, right? And no offense to you personally, all right? Um, in reviewing the documents, I didn't find any other testimony from anybody else that reviewed. You didn't have an engineer look at them or another building inspector look at them or anything, right?
No.
No. And the importance of that permit, do you think maybe you should have? And that's what I'm
Hold on one second.
going.
We need to pause for 1 second. We need to open the floor or open the for that agenda item. Right? Or
Make
is
a
no,
motion.
because it's no, yeah,
Well,
Take a-
well, if we're gonna open the public hearing, it's not, that's all. We don't need to, I mean, we haven't opened it yet.
okay, okay.
Still a
We'll do it then.
discussion.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, because it's
Trying
just
to make
right
sure
here
I'm
on the
not saying-
board, so,
Discussion
Yeah,
with
sorry
board.
for, keep going.
okay. Yeah. With the importance of this issue, don't you think somebody else should have looked at it?
I think the better question would be, is someone else required to look at them? Correct.
No, no. If I understand your job, you know, John Deere and the board and everybody else is looking for you for your input on building permits. And certainly on this, right? And the question is, to me, you know, if I was sitting in your shoes, I would have had one or two engineering firms look at it, maybe. Somebody else, you know, another building inspector, anybody, you know, rather than doing the whole thing on your own.
The plans provided were done by a licensed engineer.
Yeah.
So they were
I assume
submitted.
you're licensed in the state of New York and everything else. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. But, you know, for example, the solar panels, they're quite involved. I don't know anything about them. I'm not gonna pretend to know anything about them. But, you know, we got a lot of them over there. And they're gonna generate some electricity, and that's another problem. And if you listen to, say, the fire departments, they're concerned about them. We do have 6 or 8 or 10 of them already in the area. So I guess they better get used to it, but there's just so much involved, and I just, you know, I personally would have had somebody else bounce it off, going back and forth. But you didn't do that, you did that all on your own.
I reviewed the documents that were submitted to me that were prepared by a licensed design professional.
And you were comfortable with what they gave you, and you didn't have any other questions, and,
I did have questions in regards to the 3-line drawing, which I made them provide a for construction set instead of a preliminary set.
yeah, sure, that's a difference, yeah. But,
Were those the ones that were received on April 12th?
let me,
I can check it, I can go back and check the date, but they were received after the initial submittal.
obviously, I've got code book. I'm gonna quote, this is appendix A. This is in the 2020 Building Code of State of New York. This appendix is informative. It is not part of the code. Okay, informative, not part of the code. And the reason, you know, they talk about, here, they ask about, or talk about the qualifications, and they talk about a building official with 10 years' experience Then they talk about a chief inspector. You know this section I'm talking about?
Has that been adopted by the New York State?
I said it's
Okay.
appendix A, it's not part of the code.
I'm familiar with the appendix.
Okay, it's just a informative, right? Just reading that is, you know, you gotta have, and that's why I asked, you know, if somebody else had looked at it, or you, and the answer is no.
But we've answered that question, so. Do you have any other questions from your review of it? And again, this is our first time as a whole group meeting since we've individually reviewed the documents, and I did meet with some of you while you were reviewing them, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, no, nothing personal again.
I understand.
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it there. You are certified by the state as a building official,
My certification is current.
certified, right?
My certification is current.
Okay.
Carrie? Do you have any questions?
No questions right now.
Claire?
No questions.
Lauren?
Tom, would you like to say the section of the code that you follow to, do you have it right in front of you?
The submittal documents.
Yes, the
106.
documents that you were required to review,
Well, what he reviewed,
what he was required
No,
to review.
I'm not an expert. I've been in the business all my life. What he had to review, I have no idea. And I went in there and looked at him.
Well, he's gonna tell you what you.
When he went in there and looked at them, he could have looked at these papers. And if he said this was sufficient, I don't know the difference. And nobody on this board knows the difference. We had no experts outside of Tom looking at this.
He's the only one required to look
When
at it.
they took it away from the board, town board, right? Town board. Planning board, thank you. You know, that's where a lot of the expertise is. They get to the bottom of a lot of stuff. That wasn't done. It was all left to Tom. And when the planning board gets through with something, they go through, in my opinion, they seem to go through quite an investigation of what's going on, and then they okay it. And then the building inspector shouldn't have a problem submitting or giving them a building permit.
So,
That action didn't happen. He's sitting there by himself, handing out a permit on a tough project.
right, so, but for this board, all we know is the town board had the authority to approve the plan and submit it, and they did. So that, the only thing that this board does is say, did he follow the rules? Did he look at what was
Yeah.
submitted?
Yeah, he
Right.
looked at what was submitted. He said he did, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so for this board, that's the question. If there are other, and like this proposed resolution says, there's a lot of other issues, but that's not for this board. The only issue for this board is in the purely ministerial act,
No,
Issuing
it's
the
quite
permit.
clear, quite clear. It's, yeah.
did he look at it?
Did
But I
he look at
understand, right,
And my question to him was, did anybody else look at it that knew what they were looking at? We, right here, nobody here knows what they're looking at when they look at those documents.
correct.
So, you know, it was almost a waste of time. I mean, you go in, you look for stamp plans, you look for, but
Correct. I mean, that's exactly right, but that's,
I didn't have a list of things that he had to have because I don't know that much about it.
right, but there is a list, and he's saying that he did look at them all. So,
I'm sure he did. I don't think that was any question.
right, so that's the
Oh my God.
question.
Huh?
That's the question, that's the only question.
No, it's not the only question. It's the only question we got here on the board. tonight.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct, it's not the
Yeah.
only question.
okay. I didn't know we were gonna limit it to this particular question. I thought it was just open,
I
where we
understand.
could ask questions, and that's what I did.
No, I get that, I understand it. I'm just trying to, from a legal standpoint, get you to the correct issue here, because there's a lot of things that people are talking about, but the only thing that this board cares about is, did he do what he was supposed to do to issue the building permit?
Well,
She's going to grab the folder. Debbie's going to grab the folder, so we're gonna pause for a second.
well, get all that stuff. That,
Then I think, Warren, you were gonna. We'll wait till she comes back.
yeah, I'm sorry I missed that motion. If I had that, I would,
It's a draft, it's a draft.
yeah,
Yeah.
I missed that.
Sorry for the brief commercial interruption.
Stand by.
There's food in the lobby. Thank you. So in this. And Tom, were you gonna read what Jamie had asked you? Would you be able to?
I can, I have it on my phone right now, so I would, if we had, I had.
I have, it's right here, too.
Can you see it?
You want me to stand in front of the microphone?
Please.
Okay, 106.1. Submittal documents consisting of construction documents, statements of special inspections, geotechnical reports, and other data shall be submitted with each application for building permit. Construction documents, information on construction documents shall define the scope of the proposed work shall be sufficient clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the proposed work, and shall show in detail that the proposed work will conform to the provisions of the Uniform Code, the Energy Code, and other applicable codes, laws, and ordinances and regulations. Shall include all information required by any provisions of this code, including but not limited to the information described in section 106.2.2 through 106.2.8. All provisions required by any other applicable provision of the Uniform Code, and all the information required by any applicable provision of the Energy Code. And 5, shall include any and all information and documentation that may be required by the stricter the code enforcement program. Items continue as manufacturer's installation instructions, fire protection system shop drawings, means of egress, exterior wall envelope, exterior balconies and elevated walking surfaces, site plan, design flood elevations, flood hazard documentation, structural information, relocatable buildings. That 106.2.9 design professional, the construction document shall be prepared by a registered design professional.
Thanks, sir.
Registered in the state of New York,
I could, yes, I could.
yes, or licensed in the state of New York, yeah.
Yes. Lauren, did you have a question?
I looked at these documents. The one thing that stood out to me was,
Sir, can you speak up a little?
sure, when I looked at the documents, I said in the last meeting that timeliness, apparently, at least in broadcasting, and arbitrations and grievances and all that stuff, timeliness matters. And when I looked at these documents, I didn't see, I said in the last meeting, but when I go pay my tax bill, I walk up to the counter with a check and a tax bill, there's a stamp that goes up. I didn't see any stamps on any of these. I don't know if that matters. It seemed a little peculiar to me. But if you're looking at site survey and the construction drawings. And then building permit gets issued. It's on the 18th. I presume you had everything right there when you're looking at all this stuff.
Everything that was required, yes.
Okay, my only question is about date stamps. I'm so used to everything, the business I was in was, something comes in, it gets date stamps. And I didn't see it. That was my only question.
There is no requirement for us to date stamp them.
I mean, I don't know, just, it's the one thing that stood out to me, and I telling us that
So
we looked at all these and that it was issued.
that was a question that I had too, and I discussed it with you, and, you know, when I read through this, I read through everything that I could find. It's not in writing anywhere that I can find that it says must be state or date stamped. I've talked to a number of other municipalities that have all told me, yes, we date stamp everything. And that includes the county. I spoke to the state, just again, and council, who advised that it's not a requirement. So that
It's good practice.
it's good practice right now. But I'm also not trying to throw anybody at the town under the bus on that. I just want to, I had that same concern when I looked at it was, all
I'm
right,
just saying, if I go and pay my tax bill and they say you didn't pay it on time. Right here,
But I-
there's the stamp.
one of the documents that's in this folder, and I believe even Mr. Udemel and his client have had a chance to review the documents. One of the documents that's included in there is from the March 23rd board meeting. And if I'm incorrect, John, you were there, so please speak up. But it was stated, and then they voted on additional documents to the building file or application for the Abundant Solar Project. That was stated in the minutes by Mr. Kataski, that it included the site plan, the SWIP, and two other, I don't know where that document is in that folder, but otherwise I'd read it verbatim. But it is documented in those minutes. But as you said, that is another question that, yes.
We attempted the hearing. We weren't privy to the board.
Yep, I'll open the floor in just a couple minutes here, sorry. The board again didn't have a chance to all meet as one, because otherwise that would be a meeting. And so I wanted to make sure I'm on the same page as the rest of my board members. And then we'll open the floor in just a minute. And I apologize for the other applicants. We'll get to it a little bit. Terry,
Yeah, so basically it's not required to be time stamped. That's what we were being told.
Correct. There's nothing in these requirements that requires a timestamp.
Okay, so, but
Could
it
you
shows
clarify-
in
could you
documentation
clarify-
from, but
Not-
it shows
not-
in minutes from the March 23rd meeting that we have the documentation on March 23rd. Because it referred to them in the minutes. Is that what you're saying from the March 23rd meeting?
Yeah, do you know where that is in here? So it's,
So we
We'll
had,
find it.
so according to the minutes from a previous meeting, the documents were there.
and that was the meeting of the town board that was at BSM High School.
Okay,
And then one of the,
You
do
got
you
it?
have it?
okay, there you go.
Thank you for being prepared. So this is from the March 23rd town board meeting. That was the public hearing on this. So it's agenda item number 9 on page 13. This is landfill lease exhibits approvals. Attorney Fortesky stated that he had received additional exhibits for the lease for the closed landfill, which will include the decommissioning plan, the site plan, a letter from BNL Engineering related to the SWIP, and the adopted legal description. These need to be approved as supplements to the lease, and I'm assuming that prior to that meeting, those documents were presented to the board as.
Yes.
Okay. And for those on the video, I was asking our supervisor. Counselor Creasel made a motion, seconded by Counselor Denton, to approve the exhibits to the landfill lease as a supplement to the lease with the terms and the conditions of the lease not changing. And then it was voted on, and it was all but one counselor voted in approval of it. And so the motion carried.
So if it's not required, so it's not required to have the timestamp on it. It's best practices, and it shows in a meeting minutes of the previous meeting before the building permit was issued. Okay,
And then the application was submitted on April 1st. According to what's in there. And the submittal letter in the application. Any other questions?
thank you for the clarification.
Ever did this file out? Couple. Does the board have any other questions or comments before I open the floor? All right, can we get?
I'll make a motion open.
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes, so now it's open to the public. Yes, sir.
Tim, as well, you know, you have some Q&As, but I'll hold off until
I was gonna ask that, thank you.
I'm Dirk Alamo, I'm here representing Barbara Hadley this evening. And my first question is, I assume your council prepared this resolution, is that correct?
This resolution was prepared in conjunction with the chair and circulated as a draft.
Drafted by council in consultation with various members of the board.
Correct.
Number one, I believe Jamie should recuse herself. She has an obvious conflict of interest here. We know that, and I've been in this situation myself many times, having represented town boards. You're approached by a supervisor or a town board member, says things are not going the way we like. And we want you to consider doing something that will change the course of the matter. And I'm gonna assume that at some point in February of this year, that Supervisor Deere approached Tim and said, Tim, we hear that the planning board may not approve this. This is displeasing to me and the majority of my members of my board. And we don't want the planning board to render an adverse decision here. This is very important to us. We'd like to know what we can do to get around this situation. And I'm sure that Tim said, well, I'll consider it and get back to you. And of course, we know that Jamie, you and Tim are partners in the firm because the firm was hired as town council.
Can you clarify when you're referring to Tim that you're referring to
Tim Ferteschi.
Ferteschi?
Yes,
Only because I'm Tim also.
yeah,
so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I should have finished that.
I was confused for a minute.
So I'm assuming that thereafter, Tim consulted with his partners and associates in the law firm, which should have included Jamie, and I'm sure he would have because of her vast experience as in the municipal field. And so in consultation there, Tim made a recommendation to draft up this local law that was considered by the board on March 23rd. We also, her partner, Tim, and I don't know whether Jamie had a hand in drafting the legislation or not, but I would assume she would have had something to say about it. And we also now have before us Tim's representation to your code officer that this project had been approved in some manner by the board. I say to you that is false. That is not what occurred here. The board did not. And I think that Jamie, you know, it just happens to us attorneys from time to time. You know, we can't give good, clear advice. We got an iron in the fire. And I say there's a clear conflict of interest. Jamie's law firm was hired as town counsel by the town board. And I think she should recuse herself, and if not, I think you should do so. And you have inherent power to hire your own counsel, been clearly recognized by the highest court in the state, our Court of Appeals. And in anticipation of such a situation, the town board provided for alternate counsel in the event that first choice counsel could not serve. That appears in their organizational minutes for January of 5 of 22. And by resolution number 9, the town board provided that Baldwin, Sufflin, and Fortescue are attorneys for the town. And in the event that they can't do it, Harris Beach Law Firm was designated. So you are not in a pickle in terms of who you can turn to. If you agree with me, it's not a matter you're gonna have to go out in the streets and find an attorney. Your town board has already authorized the use of other law firm in the event, well, the language of the resolution is backup. I view that to be alternative. And so I say that Jamie, not that she's a lousy lawyer, she's a great lawyer, she's a good lawyer, well experienced. But you know something, this is ticklish, and we're all put in the spot from time to time. And I say in fairness to this situation, a proper decision by you folks. And I know you have no experience in doing this. This is probably the first time you ever been put in a position to do this. Okay? And the other reason why this is allowed in the law, that the town board has a right to participate in your proceedings. And as a matter of fact, they could appeal your decision if they don't like it, same as I would have the right on behalf of Barbara Henry to appeal it if we don't like it. And because of that, I say Jamie is conflicted because of Tim's obvious participation in the drafting and the advice to the board. And I suspect in the background, she had some input to it. So I say to you, that's a decision you should make tonight before you go any further. I'm sure she gave you advice as she consulted with you. I don't know who she talked to. I assume that it may have been only the chair because she talks to the majority of the board, and that should have been a public meeting. But I know how this goes. I've been there and done it. What you do is you speak individually to the various members, you try and get a consensus, but that's the chair's job to build a consensus if one can be arrived at. But Jamie obviously had some input to the drafting of that resolution because I'm sure you would have asked her, what do you think? You need guidance. You should have guidance, but you need to have impartial advice. I think that this case calls for that and a different set of eyes to guide you. Now, that's what I lay out for you. Now to go beyond that, number one, I wholly disagree with what's in the resolution. I want to call your attention specifically to your code, chapter 59, which deals with building permits. Specifically, I have it here from me. I'm talking about section 59-12. Under that, there is a subparagraph C. And it says, application for a building permit shall be made to the codes enforcement officer on forms provided by him and shall That's mandatory, not optional. Contain the following information. And there's a whole bunch of numbers, 1 through 11. And I'm going to focus on number 11. And it says, applications shall be made by the owner or lessee or agent of either, or by the architect, engineer, or builder employed in connection with the proposed work. We know the application was by Abundant. Next sentence. This is crucial. Where such application is made by a person other than the owner, it shall be accompanied by an affidavit of the owner that the proposed work is authorized by the owner and that the applicant is authorized to make such application. There is not in that file an affidavit by the town board, which would normally be executed by the supervisor, saying that the town board authorized this application. And that can only be done by a resolution of the town board so stating at a particular meeting that they authorize Abundant to proceed with the application on this project and authorize the supervisor to sign an appropriate document to incorporate that authorization. That is not in this file, and it's an absolute fatal defect. Now, that's number one of my argument. I'd like to know, is there in the file? Chairman, there is not. Am
Not
I
that I've
correct?
seen. Can you clarify? So that would have, just so I understand this correctly, that would have to be something from the town, right? It'd be a statement from the town since the town is the owner of the
That's
property.
correct.
Would that suffice if there was something in that file that had been like, this was a resolution voted on in a town board meeting? Would that,
Would have to be. Tim Fortesky, Mr. Supervisor, neither one have authority to do anything except by direction of the town board. The town board is not one person. It's not council. It is 7 or 5 members, and they must affirmatively vote. They can delegate in the resolution things for people to do. Very commonly done. Most resolutions say supervisors authorized to sign, blah, 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 whatever. Or town attorney is authorized to do whatever. They must vote it. Okay? So that's my number one point. Now, in my years of experience representing code officers, what's a code officer do when it deals with a land use matter? He goes to the zoning code and he checks to make sure that there is compliance with the zoning regulation. I've made a secondary argument to you that I believe the code officer applied the wrong statute. That's a very difficult legal issue. I don't expect you to make it. I've got that pending before the judge in the lawsuit against
right, I
the
was gonna
town.
say that.
And that's the question of whether or not the old statute, before it was amended on March 23 of 2022, should apply, or should the new statute with the amendment that took this away from the planning board be applied. Clearly, I believe your code officer applied the new zoning amended statute that was adopted on March 23. I say that was wrong, but you know
Does that
something?
fall outside of the purview of the appeal at hand?
I don't think it does at all, but you know something, let's skip over it because, you know, Jamie's very schooled in the law, okay? But lawyers and judges don't agree on a lot of things. This is a very sophisticated legal issue, and the judge will decide it. I'm gonna give the code officer the benefit of the doubt that he didn't know otherwise, and therefore he applied the new law, which exempted this project from planning board review. Okay? But I expected him to apply that law as adopted. Now, let's go to the new law.
Just, I also want to be cognizant of everyone's time, so I don't want to
Well,
shut you
listen,
down.
you want me to
also.
sit down and let others get them out of here, because I'm making a record, I'm dead serious about this, and I really think there's more work for you folks to do. And I think you'd be making a terrible mistake to consider the adoption of that resolution before you've had a chance to digest all that I've had to say. And I'm telling you, you need separate, impartial counsel to guide you in making what I think is a very important decision for your community. It's that simple. But code officer didn't look at that new statute. He's a code enforcer. He enforces the statute. You know something, what happened here? And I don't know this gentleman. I don't mean to denigrate him or say anything. Tim came to him and said, the town board's approved this. And I'm sure John Deere was there in time, and I said, let's issue this permit. You know, everybody thought it was just gonna happen nice and easy. And what position was this fellow put in as a code officer? He didn't dot all the i's and cross the t's as he would if it were a private project. He was approving a project for his bosses, okay? So, you know, it's not his fault what happened here. The fault is with the town board and their process. This case is all about process. Okay, now, it's very important that you look at the new statute, and I'm telling you, your code officer didn't look at this. DEC, he knew this was a regulated site. DEC had not approved this building project. They approved it after the fact, July 1. Okay? There was no decommissioning plan in place. It had been proposed, reviewed, and was under review by the independent expert, and the independent expert didn't agree with the decommissioning plan. Those are all in the statute, things that should have been in place, they weren't. Where was the stormwater pollution and prevention plan acceptable with town engineer? We don't even know on the record who the town engineer is. It wasn't Barton and LeJudas, they were representing Abundant. Who was the town engineer on this project? No. And in here it says the town board shall consider and evaluate all the criteria set forth in section D4B below, which doesn't exist because they didn't draft in D4B. Whatever it would say, before finalizing the lease. This lease had been finalized months before, years before. There's no compliance with this new statute. I'm telling you, get separate counsel. Get separate counsel and take a hard look at this. We're dead serious about this. We're not arguing the merits of the project itself. This is about process and how government should conduct its business, and this has not been handled properly. This building permit should be vacated. Let them go back to square one and do it right, if they can put it back together. Now, I've shortened up my presentation because in fairness to everybody else, but I want to give you a real sense. I assume you've got this recorded and notes down. But I'm telling you, look at chapter 59 and look at this new statute. And then I agree with Jamie. His job is ministerial. Okay? But he didn't have the things he was supposed to have. Okay? That's what this is about. I'm getting worked up, and I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
I'll sit down.
I appreciate your comments. Do we have any other comments from those in the room?
Yes, can I?
Yes, sir. Please identify yourself so we can note it in the minutes.
My name's Dave Taylor. I live at 7303 Wilmer Road. And to give you a description where I am, if you're familiar with where the landfill is, there's a cemetery, it sits there, and my house is at the top of the hill at the cemetery. So I have to do the whole thing. I'm reinforcing what Mr. Kelly was talking about, and has no backup for whatever has been done. Engineering wise, nobody hears engineers, nobody here knows how to read construction plans. And that town work certainly doesn't either, because I've seen that before too. They were at my house. All right, I'm a little upset about the process that's happening. You talk about the process, but you eliminated one of the processes. You eliminated that planning board. That planning board dissects those drawings and has information for you to work with, for him to work with, and it hasn't happened. And I don't understand how you can turn around and put a construction project, put a building on a waste, solid waste land. You know, that's a hazardous waste site. Nobody's considering that at all. You go in there and you start running equipment, all that thing, construction equipment, building rows and rows of glass, steel, and concrete. I don't understand why that's not brought up. And this is that I watched these gentlemen here look at plans for decks and scrutinize the foundations on a deck. Okay, I don't see the plan sitting on a desk here showing me what foundations are going on these things. You can't penetrate that landfill. Have you looked at those? You're satisfied with the foundations?
I have to.
Other than the brochure that was sent to you. I've seen a brochure, all right, and I'm a little upset about that. You know, I understand the construction business. I've been in it for 45 years. Actually, I probably did portions of that landfill covered back. When I moved in, that landfill was open. And so I know what was going in there. Nothing good. All right, the cover process, that's a whole other ballgame. But you have to consider what's going on here. You can't eliminate a planning board on this whole process, particularly on something like this. You're in a residential area. That landfill's not out surrounded by acres and acres of farms. That's everybody's backyard. You've got condominiums all around it. You've got senior housing around it. You've got everything that's built. And this town board and this planning board and the zoning board approved all that. All right. Now you turn around and you can say, we're going to slam this thing. You know, it's wrong. It's wrong. So let's get the process back in order. Let's get that planning board back in order, okay? And I think just to back this guy up. All right, he's got no backup. All right, that's what Mr. College wants to know. He wants to know who's backing you up, who's got your butt covered. And typically that planning board does, and nobody's done anything about it. Sit there and everybody's here for that. I didn't see the construction drawings. He hasn't got them out here. They must be in that file. They're in there. I'm sure they are. And I'd like to look at them. All right, myself. But somebody has to, besides him.
And that file is available for you to come in and take a look at. Come in and see Debbie right at the
I will
office.
do
if
that.
you'd like to see
I will
it.
do that. I appreciate it.
And I just want to clarify, at least, please comment if I'm overstepping my assumption here, but or not assumption, but procedurally, that's outside obviously the purview of what we as the ZBA can do.
Right.
But that would be something that the town board, would have to address.
Procedural, but you eliminate part of that procedure.
Well, yeah, I'm just clarifying.
I understand. That's what I'm trying to
So,
clarify too.
yeah.
Mr. Kelly was trying to get at, I think.
Yeah.
He's got nobody backing him up. Okay, he's got to inspect. I don't know what he's inspecting. Okay, he's got to go look at foundations, stormwater runoff, everything's got to be allowed in that project. You know, if that landfill gets penetrated, who knows what happens? You know, I don't know what comes out. You know, they call it leachate. Leachate. Anyways, but thank you. I appreciate the time, and hopefully we can come up with the right decisions here.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Did you want to make any comments, sir? Okay. Anybody else in the audience have any comments they want to make? You mentioned that there were questions or people that would like to speak on
There's
that.
a number of comments here. You want to see if this person would rather speak, or do you want me to read out the comments?
Why don't we give him the option to speak?
So, Mr. Bassett, if you'd like to consolidate your 4 questions into something, would you like to speak? If so, just go ahead and raise your hand. We can promote you to panelist.
Can you put up what his questions was?
There he goes.
I think he's trying to get.
He's raising it up. He just has to go left. There it goes.
Well, I really was just posing the questions that I had on the on that aspect of the Zoom program. And since I don't have those questions in front of me at the moment, there were 4 or 5 specific questions, which do you have access to?
Yeah, I can read them out if you'd like.
Would you
I
like?
mean, those questions represent my comments, and it's sort of superfluous for me to try to recall.
Yeah, we can read them off for you, sir.
Okay, so I'll give you a pause after each question. Should the motion not indicate that the board is denying the Article 78 appeal?
No, this has nothing to do with the Article 78.
Has the code enforcement officer felt it necessary to seek the opinions of other professional resources prior to issuance of other solar facility building permits, assuming that such other facilities have been permitted? Tom is taking a ministerial act within his authority. Is he being accused of malfeasance?
I guess I'm not sure that it's a multiple part question, but I guess the answer is no. The only thing the code officer has to do is follow the regulations and issue a permit. He does not have to undertake independent. There's not much independence involved in what he does.
Is there a responsive pleading to the Article 78 petition? And if so, is it a matter of public record? Who is representing the town or its agents or employees in this litigation?
There has been no responsive pleading, to my knowledge. There is an Article 78 that's a matter of public record. Baldwin, Sefton, and Protesky is representing the town in the Article 78 proceeding.
Does this attorney have an unlimited period of time to make a highly technical legal argument tonight before this board without any opportunity to consult with its counsel? Is not the proper forum for this argument in the actual pending legal proceeding?
I'm not sure which attorney.
He was referring to Mr. Whitmore.
Does he have unlimited?
Period of time to make a highly technical legal argument tonight before this board without any opportunity to consult with its counsel? I'm assuming you're referring to you. Is not the proper forum for this argument in the actual pending legal proceeding.
Can you actually hear me now?
We can, sir.
Yeah. So basically, I was trying to understand what you were being asked to do tonight. A motion was on the table. I think it was approved to.
No, it was
But-
not.
It was a
over-
Or
discussion.
maybe it was tabled, but the whole purpose of the Article 78 proceeding is to appeal the issuance of the building permit. So it would, that's why my first comment had to do with the decision of the board to either to deny the Article 78 appeal. It would seem that is what the town and its building inspector employee would be seeking.
So this, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. This appeal is before us is for the repeal of the building permit that was issued. It's separate and not part of the Article 78 proceeding. Am I correct? in
No,
that?
ultimately, I suppose if
No, ultimately,
everything in the Article 78
Yes.
is turned over, then there can't be.
But the question before the ZBA was
Is limited.
was the building permit filed correctly? Yes or no?
So this-
without oversimplifying it.
This is Tom Bassett.
Yes.
Yes,
May I speak?
yes, sir.
Okay. For the board and Tom's benefit, I believe our law requires us to exhaust all remedies that we may have before we have resort to the court. So before I filed the Article 78 proceeding, I had a conversation with Tim, told him that I was going to appeal the issuance of the building permit. He said, Dirk, no, you can't. And then he rethought and reconsidered, and he said, oh, yes, you can, Dirk. So I did. So I filed this proceeding as part of my obligation to exhaust any other remedy that was available to my client in this matter. I also inserted into the Article 78 the same issues.
All right, being that there are no other,
You've got one
Oh.
person, Susan Goldman.
Okay, so
Okay.
let me just quickly respond to that. You know, first of all, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dirk Altamont. He may not remember me from back in the day. He's obviously a very intelligent, very competent municipal attorney, land use attorney, whatever. But here's my problem as a town taxpayer, and I inserted this additional question, which I fortunately haven't sent. But my problem is that his clients, his primary clients, are a group of, I can speculate, wealthy Averill Drive residents in those townhouses that sit above the landfill. And they want to preserve their view shed of the landfill. They don't want the solar panels on the landfill. So Dirk is saying that this is primarily, or maybe exclusively, or maybe only about process, but that really isn't what the objective is. The objective is to string this project out long enough so that hopefully the developer goes away, and that the solar array never gets built, thereby accomplishing the true objective of his clients. So, you know, that's, again, my personal opinion. He would probably not admit to that, but that's what makes sense under the circumstances. And a group of less resource laden people would highly unlikely that they would pony up the funds necessary to mount this attack. So that's not a question, I guess. That's just a statement of
thank
opinion.
you. Thank you for your comments, sir. We also have, is that,
Susan Goldman. So, Susan, if you're here to speak for the public hearing, if you could just raise your hand so we could hear from you. Mr. Bassett, I'm just gonna put you back as an attendee.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, I don't know you, but my name is John J. Morrissey.
Yeah, address the board if you could.
I was listening, but I had to speak up when I listened to him. If I heard him right, I can't always hear good, that he said, well, rich people putting together a thing who just don't want the solar panels. I've been a Democrat my entire life. And I gotta tell you, I'm here today because of the process. I don't think it was right the way they did the process. Now, if somebody said, well, how should we have done it? I don't know. That's not my expertise. My expertise is, I'm a retired auto worker, not rich. I live in a nice neighborhood. I worked 30 years at New Process here. And I'm proud that I'm retired. I'm proud where I live. And sir, I'm proud of you, and I've never met you before in my life. Both of you, because I like the way you conducted yourself, the questions you asked were questions that I was asking myself. And I don't have half of your intelligence, that's all.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Susan,
Sir, I hope you got the record straight, at least on this one.
Susan, do you have any comments for this public hearing before I close it? If you do, please raise your hand. And we'll upgrade you to panelist. But if she doesn't have her camera on, her picture won't show it. It'll just show she's an attendee. And all right. She may just be watching. All right. Can we get a motion to close the public hearing? All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Tired now? All right, does the board have any additional comments or questions after hearing from the public in our discussion? And presumptive next steps.
I don't have any comments. I mean, certainly interesting, and something we probably need to consider, but not for this evening.
What are your thoughts?
I don't have anything besides what you just said.
He is very intelligent. He actually very is. Carrie?
No, I, no comments.
Warren?
I feel like the weight of Atlas is on my shoulders. This is certainly unprecedented for everything that I've seen, watching proceedings over the years.
More complicated than a swim pool.
This is not an easy, this is not an easy one. Listen to everybody. Made my comment about the tax stamp, you know, when you pay your tax bill. And that makes sense to me. Tom said he's. So answer there, you looked at everything, issued the building permit. There's no requirement for a date stamp. What can I say? Those are my comments.
Tom, do you have any comments? I want to give you the opportunity.
I do not.
All right, so on the table then, we have the motion that was presented at the beginning of the meeting. Or we can motion to adjourn the matter pending further study of the issues raised. And of that, what are our next steps?
Or do you feel comfortable voting tonight? You said you have weight of Atlas on your shoulders.
One thing I'd be curious about. Let's say this didn't happen. It's Article 78, would that make the decision, or does it have to be CBA first and then? I don't know.
You can,
And address her only because the public comments closed.
Yeah.
it would be resolved in the Article 78 proceeding. This matter would be resolved in the Article 78 proceeding as well. But it is before this board.
Okay, so it's this one first and then.
Yeah,
No,
whatever
there
we
is-
do, whatever we do will be part of the 78, someplace along the line. The judge will consider whatever our vote is.
Yes, and no, they're welcome to bring this up anew. So this is a procedural matter. It usually, I think I talked about this the first time out. is that it's not a usual thing, because usually it goes up to the Article 78. But this particular party has decided that they wanted to preserve their rights, and whether we say it was properly or improperly, it's going up on appeal.
On the
And it's
78.
already there. It's already there, and it will just probably be added on to either way. And that's why usually you don't see this. Usually because it's so ministerial, usually it's like, okay, he did this, he issued it, and all the background stuff is all going to be argued.
I understand this.
Right, that's what, but I'm trying to put it in context of why you don't usually see it.
A question for you. What if we voted no bill? Or whatever you want to call
There,
You're saying no to,
just that we don't make a decision.
it. Right.
I mean, I think right now, if
well, that was what I
you're,
just said, you motion to
No,
adjourn.
no, not to adjourn it, not to keep it going. It's a no vote or no bill. Whatever the correct legal language is.
I have to think about that one. If there has to be a motion to say, yes, it was appropriate, it issued, or no, it was not. So it's either gonna
That's my only
pass or it's
choices?
going to fail. That is correct.
Or we adjourn.
And you don't need to decide that tonight if Tim suggests that it be adjourned further, and it can be adjourned further.
Well, I make the motion that we adjourn it to the next meeting. Sorry for keep bringing this up, but I don't think we're in a position to vote this evening.
So I have a question for that. Can I ask that, KP? Can I ask you a
Okay.
question? If
Sure.
we table this and adjourn
Yeah.
and we come back, it'll still be the same discussion, correct? Whether or
Yes.
not, so, okay, so what if, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate. What if we
Please
say,
do, yeah.
what if we say, no, he didn't do his job, which we've already shown that he did, the documents are there. Regarding the time stamp, that's another, and it wasn't required. If we say, if we say no, he has to review the documents again and reissue then a building permit?
No,
No. So clarify that for me.
If you say he didn't do something right, it would be a good idea to know what it was he didn't do right.
Correct, yeah.
But, and this is another reason why it's usually not appealed. It's something that's not appealed because it's just like, okay, I'm missing X. I'll put it in and then he issues it.
Okay.
So this is.
So, but he did everything. He's got everything in the file that's required, correct? Tom
This
did.
is for you to decide. This is.
Well,
wait
Okay.
a minute, wait a minute. And back to my point is, I don't know, and I've been in the business all my life. And I don't know if anybody else here on the board knows just what he's supposed to.
No.
Receive, what he's supposed to review, what he's supposed to okay. Okay, I mean, here's one of 9 books that, you can go through.
I'll pass.
To me, it takes more than, here's a bunch of papers, okay, this, and we'll keep going.
Here's the piece I'm leaning on at the moment too, that just looking at the motion to adjourn and investigate further is based upon what Dirk raised, the statement or document about the owner.
Oh,
all I know is what he just said and what I read in the code. I would like to investigate that further.
that's a good point. See, I don't know that's part of the deal, but the man says it is, it must be. And
that's
should be,
part of our town code.
right?
So
So,
now,
I didn't understand the part about the DEC didn't approve it till July 1st.
Well, we've
That's right.
got, so, yeah, so we've got that information in our notes. What we should do is go back through and research all of that and make sure that we've got everything correct. Again, I apologize for dragging it out another month if we decide that that's what we're gonna do, but I want to be correct.
Sure.
And if that's a question raised that wasn't there before, we have just cause to go to another 30 days to review, right? Now, the other question that was raised though, and I just want your opinions on it, and we don't have to make that decision at this point in time, but you did raise the point of other counsel. Does anybody have any opinion on that?
Not at this point.
Okay.
This point.
Carrie or Claire or Warren?
No.
So with that being said, would we entertain the motion to adjourn?
But to continue
To continue, yes.
I'll make that motion.
And then what's the plan to do so?
The plan,
Yeah, we'll go through these issues raised,
right,
compile that information.
and we'll have another discussion.
Yep.
I don't think we need Tom's input. I don't think we'll need his input.
So do we have to withdraw the motion? I
Well,
made?
you didn't make the
It was
motion, it
just
was
a
a
draft.
discussion, it's
So,
a draft
okay.
discussion.
Okay.
It wasn't a motion, but you would need a motion to adjourn
Correct.
the matter, adjourn this proceeding.
I make a motion to adjourn the proceeding and investigate it in 30, or talk about it in 30 days.
Can I get a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You were not? Abstaining? Yes, sir.
30 days, I think, considering everything that we've heard, I don't think that's out of line.
No, I don't either.
After listening to all this, I'm not an attorney, I look for advice.
Yep.
I got my question answered about date stamps.
As I said before, that was your
You need to
question,
have
my
that.
question.
big vote.
Yep, well, we did. We just did.
Did we pass it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there you go.
See you next. Night.
Have a good night. All right. I gotta find where in my pile the other stuff is. There we go.
All right.
All right, next one. All right. Oh, I didn't mention before, but the legal notice for tonight's agenda has been published to notify the general public of the meeting. Can we have a motion to waive the reading of the publication? Warren,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so at this time, I will request a motion to open the public hearing on agenda item number 4, no, I'm sorry, number 5, for Michael and Vanessa. Is it Gatnatan? I didn't want to butcher it. 4463 Swissvale Drive, Manlius, New York, requesting one side yard variance of 10 feet for the installation of a 18 by 30 foot in-ground pool. Sir, if you could come up and please tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do. And again, for everyone still in the room, thank you so much for your patience.
I'm gonna have to leave after this. I have 3 girls with that.
Absolutely.
Michael got my can, obviously, I'm requesting this variance. Basically, we're trying to put a small pool in our backyard. Our backyard faces backside of it on a pretty good hill. We have different tiers, if you will, the lower part of their house, pretty steep hill, and then the rest of our yard. So we didn't really have a lot of options where we would like to put the pool. We picked the largest pool we could possibly fit relatively. And the idea would be to put a retaining wall in with the proper drainage. So the drainage would go out to daylight, not affect anyone surrounding our property. And obviously, we don't want to put a pool in and have water come to our house, so we're gonna run anything that is required to get out of the space. We're using landscape, not a landscape architect, but we are to put a drainage pipe on the backside of the retaining wall. And basically, I can't shift that pool in another location without putting it at risk, potentially putting it near a door. We have 2 sets of doors in our backyard, so if I shift it 10 feet to the one side, then we're basically be hitting one of our doors. So I have 3 doors under 6, so I really want to be able to cordon them off or the pool in a safe manner.
Absolutely. All right. Board, do you have any questions?
Well, seems reasonable to me. I was over there, looked at it, went around the back. Hope you don't mind, but your wall there in the back or your hill in the back, that's a bit of a challenge.
Pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's almost more than half the cost of the actual pool for just the landscaping side. We're putting boulders down and then having a gradient so that we can put some plants and mulch and then another level of boulders to kind of match the consistency of our property area. Lots of boulders in that area.
Yeah. And who's doing your pool?
Canning pool.
Cannon? Okay. Okay.
Warren, any questions?
In the area your kids play in, if you're looking for the street past the house, is that area on the right, that relatively flat area?
Yeah, so yeah, one of the things we really want to do is put a pool in the middle of the backyard on that only area that I consider flat. We have a little area right to the, as we walk in from our garage side. It's not that big, so they end up spending most of their time on the upper plateau, if you will, along with the playground that's there as well. So by moving that pool further back above that, I was getting a little concerned about the distance from our house and then having to build a fence around it the second time. That was my concern. If we keep it where it's shown now, I only have to build an additional fence for safety, not as my understanding required, but just to keep the kids out. It's basically a giant L, so hit the existing fence and then the existing house. So I'm gonna basically corner that off, that area off from the temporary fence. That if the black ones, you can pull up when you want to use it and keep closed when.
Yeah, so you got a permanent fence going around it.
We do, and I have 12-foot buffer fence to remove it temporarily, and once it goes in, put it back and then install the proper required.
Because you'll have water alarms, you'll have
Yep.
alarms on the self-closing doors.
I'm following over that the code official said, sorry. The code that was sent to me, it said it had to be a self-matching.
Yeah,
spring.
self-latching.
Yeah, we do have a pool alarm because that's what the code required as well by New York State. But for the doors, there's no alarm for the doors. It's just it'll automatically close behind. It has to be a certain height to open and close it. So they can't reach it easily.
Yeah.
I honestly, whatever we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Claire, any questions?
No questions.
I see it, to me, it's logical where he's looking to put it. I didn't really have any questions. Safety stuff will be in place to ensure the safety of his kids and others, so that's good. That's always my biggest concern with pools, so. It's understandable. Carrie, do you have any questions?
I agree with you where it was placed, where it makes a logical sense. Neighbors are okay with it? Did you talk to the neighbors at all?
I talked to both neighbors, specifically the neighbor that's going to be lot 14, if you will. He was a little hesitant about it just because he likes his quiet, private backyard. But I did explain to him that there would be a water problem, and if you go to the site and go to their house, they're actually on a higher portion of the hill, and there's actually a natural, I don't know if it's natural, I think they've done it before, but there's a swale already between our two houses.
Right.
So I don't see how my pool being placed there and having the pipe go straight out to the street again, or following existing drainage would affect his area as well.
Yeah.
And we actually had a couple of different landscapers come in and he's talked to them as well, when I was getting quotes and, they assured him as well, looking at it, hey, you're 15 feet up or 20 feet up off the way, you have no water now, I don't see how water is going to affect his property. He didn't seem to say anything besides yes or no, he just kind of let it go, so.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's.
I spoke to one of your neighbors
Okay.
on the phone and I directed him to the application and all the stuff on the website.
Is my phone best?
I don't remember,
Sure.
but he seemed satisfied with what I was telling him and where all the information was that he could look at himself. Yeah.
The overall plan eventually would be to put dividing, well, we have an existing fence, but we were going to put some sort of decorative ferns or something that would go up a little bit taller, nothing more than 6 feet tall, just to give it more screening action for it. But, I mean, he'll probably need it when it's 16, but right now it's 6, so it's not too bad.
Thank you.
I'm gonna now open the meeting to anyone in the audience that would like to comment or have questions. Is there anybody on the Zoom? All right, I would like to request a motion to close the public hearing.
Let's close them, make a motion to close them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so what we're gonna do next, sir, is the board is going to go through those same 5 questions that you did in your application. Thank you for doing that. All right. So first question, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance?
No. This spot there's the most reasonable on it.
Whether an undesirable change would be produced in character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties?
No.
No, and lots of other houses around them have pools.
No, yeah.
Whether the requested variance is substantial,
No.
10 feet,
10 feet.
it's half,
That's not bad.
it's half of the side yard setback.
But being where the pool is, the situation with the hill, it's.
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
Is it 10, that whole point, because the property does this? Is 10 at the farthest edge of the pool? Is that how you measured it?
That is what we're going off from.
Okay,
That's what we drew, we did what we could.
okay. All right, would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood?
No.
No,
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created?
yes.
Okay. All right, ZBA, after taking into consideration the above 5 factors, finds that the benefit to the application or applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood. The ZBA further finds that a variance for 10 feet is the minimum variance, the 10 feet side yard variance, is the minimum variance that should be granted in order to preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. There's agreement that there is no significant impact on the environment, so therefore I propose a type 2 action on seeker, so no further review is required. Based upon that, would somebody like to make a motion?
I can make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Claire.
I move that the zoning board grant an area variance to Michael and Michelle Chapman for the real property located at 4463 Swissvale Drive, Manlius, New York, 03104. This variance is being granted for the specific purpose of permitting the construction of an 18-foot by 30-foot in-ground pool, thereby modifying the side yard setback of 20 feet to that of 10 feet, leaving a variance of 10 feet.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. I'll
Cindy,
second.
you were gonna raise your hand. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Claire. They will reach out to you with your permit. I'm sorry.
Okay, great. Sorry, I don't want to leave.
No,
You guys do.
go right ahead. Go get your girls in bed. Have a good night, sir. Thank you for your patience again. Okay, moving on. We are now on to agenda item number 6. This is for Melissa Yandon, 111 Kendall Drive West, East Syracuse. She's requesting a rear yard setback of 4 feet for the installation of a 18 by 18 round and 4 foot tall above ground pool.
Existing.
Existing, yes. Yep, if you could come up and just as the other gentleman did, if you could just explain why you need the variance and.
Well, actually, not this particular pool, we've had a pool there for over 50 years. We've replaced them a number of times, and I was not aware, I know it's not an excuse, of the variance. And it's just, we had a sand base brought in and put down, it's just very difficult to have to drain the pool to move it forward. And then move the base as well, especially at my age. And I have talked to the neighbors on either side, and they do have an issue with the pool remaining.
Been there as long as you said.
Yeah, and you know, we have a place out for the kids, we have trampoline, we have several black walnut trees in the middle of the yard. And this was basically the only place we could really put it, where we wouldn't have to worry about the walnuts falling in the trees.
Fair mess. All right, Board, any questions?
I didn't measure, that's 4 foot tall.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't need the fence thing. It's-
No.
And you keep your ladder up or whatever it is.
yeah, we lock it in the shed at night. It's only in there when the kids are swimming, otherwise it's always locked in the shed.
Oh, that's what, okay. That was
Yeah.
your husband?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite catch what he was all doing there. But I think he was showing me that it was in there, but,
Yes.
okay.
All right. I don't have any questions. To me, it makes sense to have it. It's been there for a while,
Yes.
a few years.
If I could address the board.
Yeah, I was
This
gonna,
was sent to you based on a violation that was observed by a code enforcement officer. Like for Belden, and it was not, the violation was not based on a complaint, so we did not, it was not a complaint that
right.
sent it this way. It was based on observation from code enforcement. We did not receive a complaint from our department in regards to.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I had when we were doing the initial planning for this meeting was where did it come from? And so he clarified for us that it was Mike that had observed it. And so that's what brings us here tonight.
And you, so you cited her for the violation?
We cited her for the pool.
Yeah.
And then when Ms. Yannick came in, it was determined that a variance would be required, and that is what brought her here.
Great, yep, that's all right,
Claire,
very good.
No questions.
Carrie,
No questions. That answered. You're good.
Warren, you're good?
Yep, I looked at it.
All right. Any comments from the public? All two of you. Still awake, right? Anybody on Zoom? No? All right. May we get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Warren,
Second,
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so again, we're gonna go through those 5 questions. And then we will make our determination. All right, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance. No, it's already there.
Yep.
Whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
No,
Whether requested variance is substantial.
no,
No. Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood?
no,
Whether alleged difficulty was self-created 15 years
yes,
ago? You just don't have to put that right here. All right, so the ZBA, after taking into consideration the above 5 factors, finds that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community. ZBA further finds that a variance of 4 feet is the minimum variance that should be granted in order to preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. There's agreement, there is no significant environmental impact. Therefore, I propose a type 2 action on seeker and no further review is required. Based upon that, would anybody like to make a motion? Warren,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the zoning board grant an area variance to Melissa Yandon, property at 111 Kendall Drive West in Syracuse. Variance granted for the purpose of continuing to allow the pool property. Granting the 4-foot additional to meet the waiving the 25-foot rear yard setback.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Uh,
Abstained?
We want to add, it's an above ground pool.
Should we amend that? And also, they don't need a building permit because, right? We've granted the variance to the property now, but they don't need a building permit since it's already built, right? So should we have that
I think we
included?
probably
No.
should give us,
Yeah,
should a building
They
permit
need a
to
building permit.
pull the
We'll
whole.
give you a building permit for your reference.
Mhm.
So,
And they're gonna charge it for the last 15 years. No.
no. So, did we just vote on that?
So that's a 16-foot pool.
Warren and Claire, and I put the letter.
So then I just wanted to make sure I was correct in what they were gonna do. So they will issue you the building permit and the variance has been granted. So thank you for coming in and your patience with us. And sorry for keeping you long.
That's okay. Lori and Tom Castro said it's 25.
Tell them I said bye bye.
I will.
All right. So last but certainly not least, Andy and Brenda, is it Dice?
Yes.
Okay. 8022 Blarney Stone Way, Good Irish Road, Manlius, New York. Requesting a side yard variance of 15 feet and a rear yard variance of 23 feet for the installation of a 12 by 16 foot shed. This is the most complicated one.
I'm
No, Article 78.
Brenda. This is my husband.
You learned a lot tonight, though, right?
It was a really interesting conversation.
This is what we do all the time.
I get it. I get it. So we found a shed in Plasky that is super cute. Here's a photo of it. Oh, there's.
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Thank you.
And then I wrote, this is what it's basically going to look like. It's going to have 2 doors on the long end, and it's gonna have a window on each of the other 3 sides. Our yard is cut weirdly in that it's kind of slopey. It's got a lot of stones. So I'm on the corner of Blarney Stone and Whetstone. Lots of stones in my yard. You can see them as you're walking around. We try to avoid the stones. We try to avoid the easement that's going through my yard and not take up the center of what's left of the yard. We also didn't want to take out trees. We didn't want the front yard. So this seems like a good solution. We did talk to our neighbor next door, who's gonna be, most impacted. I don't think he's impacted, but it will be closest
That's the
to
neighbor
him.
on Blarney?
Yes,
Yeah,
and I have assigned,
because his house is like, yeah.
his house is the closest to where the shed will
This
be.
is 80/20 Warren.
Yeah.
And I have assigned a document that, also gives his telephone number if you have,
Giving it to me.
if you have questions,
We
but
need-
he had no problem with it.
That's gonna become part of the record.
So I also showed you in the first page, the color that we're planning on, also painting the house.
Nice color.
So it will match the shed.
Colonial color.
I like it. Our house is
Pretty.
130 years old, so it looked like a good, historic color for us.
Fun fact, you guys have 2 front yards. Did you know that?
Yes, we do. I am not gonna argue this officially to the board, but over here, as an aside, I think our front yard is on Whetstone because that's where the original front door was. But according to the code, our front door is on Blarney Stone, and I'm fine with that.
You could have 2 front doors and have 2 front yards.
Maybe. Yeah. So you can see in the second page that I gave you is just in green where I kind of showed you where the shed is going. You can see it's still pretty far away from our neighbor there on Blarney Stone. And that property behind us, the one adjacent to us on Whetstone, is actually a non-buildable lot. It's too small,
Yeah.
so it's probably gonna,
It's like for kind, not really, but kind of forever wild.
yeah.
Right, Tom, isn't that what we talked about?
Yes.
So I don't think
It's not
anybody's gonna.
really big enough for a building lot,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have any questions?
You said that the 2 doors are on the long side.
The 2 doors are gonna be on the long side.
They're on the 16-foot side, they'll be facing west.
Be like there.
So this was an example, obviously they didn't have ours built yet, but this was another one that they had built. We just put the doors on,
Just as reference of what the doors.
right,
Okay.
these doors are gonna be,
They're gonna be,
Right, they're gonna be facing.
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
they're gonna be facing Whetstone.
Just like we call
And then there's gonna be a window on each of the other 3 sides. of the
Stand
building.
down, no,
All
clear. That's
Strike
just a
that
reference
from
of
the
what
record.
doors-
Yes.
Okay, that's right.
right. Claire,
No questions.
Carrie,
No questions.
all right. Do we have any public comments? No one else is in the room.
it.
Anybody online, John? Thank you, sir. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna request a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion. to
Oh,
close.
wait, hold on.
I don't have it in my notes.
Did we? Okay, so then procedurally, we need to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Make the motion over.
All right,
Second.
KP seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, now, can you make a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is what I get for not eating before. My brain's getting foggy. All right, so now we're gonna go through the 5 questions and discuss among ourselves. All right, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance.
No, she can get it closer to her house. But where they've got it, I think it's fine.
Whether the undesirable change would be producing character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
No,
No.
Whether the requested variance is substantial.
no.
I mean, the rear yard one kind of is, but
Yeah. 23.
can you say no to one and yes to the other? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but then we'd have to split. Right?
Well, it can all go
Okay.
in one motion.
So I would say yes to the side, the rear yard.
I got a question here that just. We're doing a side yard. We're doing a side yard for. Right, why not the rear yard?
You're doing a side yard and a rear yard. There's 2.
There's
There's a side yard variance of 15 feet and a rear yard of 23 feet. That's why I'm saying the 23-foot one is substantial,
okay,
right?
there you go.
That's, to me, it's more than half. It's
You
pretty,
said that white fence in the back that is on,
The white fence is not on my property line. It is 6 or 7 feet into my property line, so I don't know if you can see in the aerial photo well, but you can kind of see the line of that fence. That fence is, again, 7 feet away from my property line, so the property line is behind that fence. If you're standing at my house. Why they did that, I don't really know. I didn't put up the fence.
150 years.
There's an easement back here.
There's a Onondaga County, yeah, water.
All right, fourth question. Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood?
No,
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created?
yes,
All right. The ZBA, after taking into consideration the above 5 factors, finds that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood. BA further finds that a variance for a side yard variance of 15 feet and a rear yard variance of 23 feet is the minimum variance that should be granted in order to preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. There's also agreement, there's no significant environmental impact, so therefore I propose a type 2 action on seeker and no further review is required. Now can we entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the zoning board grant an area variance to Andy and Brenda Dice for the real property located at 8022 Blarney Stone Way, Manlius, New York, 13104. This variance is being granted for the specific purpose of permitting the construction of a 12-foot by 16-foot shed, thereby modifying the side yard setback of 20 feet to that of 5 feet, leaving a variance of 15 feet, and modifying the rear yard setback of 40 feet to that of 17 feet, leaving a variance of 23 feet.
Question. In a case like this, where you mentioned the shed, is it understood that it's one level?
He's presented photos.
No, I know.
Well,
that's-
it's, I mean, it's a height. I mean, I don't,
I'm just
I guess they could be.
technically,
I mean,
because we had the other guy with the barn, which is,
Mhm.
does this mean?
Well, this falls under that, so it doesn't need any need for a.
Just ask the question.
Yeah, no, you're right. A standard built shed would be within, and that would have been something that Tom shouldn't have needed a height variance. Tom would have indicated that in the application.
I just never heard anybody mention anything about height.
Right.
Good question.
Yes, so it's within the code requirements. It's not higher and unless it is, and then we'll know about it.
Fine.
It's not.
Section seconds.
The vote.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
But if you was.
No, I was good.
You could sit here all night, but.
Gavel.
You're second. You're welcome. All right. Last agenda item. Somebody like to make a motion for adjournment?
I second it.
That's enthusiastic. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is closed.